Dear Patriots, before the news starts, please subscribe to our patriotic channel by clicking the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up to this video. Don't forget to leave your opinion below in the comments section. Share the news on Facebook and Twitter so you friends see it. Thank you.
MSNBC's Joe Scarborough goes on scathing rant making fun of Bannon's weight. Liberals and Democrats in the media are very against fat shaming. However, they act very differently when it's about a conservative or someone they disagree with politically. Lena Dunham made this tweet: "For months I was really against anyone saying anything about Donald Trump's looks. I was like, that makes us just as bad as him." Over that. They are also constantly making fun of Chris Christie's weight. MSNBC's Joe Scarborough went on an angry rant that seemed to be about Steve Bannon being chubby both physically and metaphorically. Steve Bannon thinks that you're the fools. He thinks that, I guess he doesn't think you can read, because Steve Bannon, he worked for Goldman Sachs. Now, I'm not knocking working for Goldman Sachs, but for Steve Bannon to talk to you, and say, they think you're morons. I don't want people that work at Goldman Sachs to work in the White House. He worked at Goldman Sachs," said Scarborough. "Did you notice he's looking a little chubbier than usual? That's because the Mercers, who are like billionaires, they're shoving money in his pocket," said Scarborough. "Do you think the media is full of double standards?" Trump just graded his response to Puerto Rico out of 10, do you agree with his grade? In typical sleazy fashion, Democrats attempted to politicize the devastation in Puerto Rico following Hurricane Maria by claiming that Republican President Donald Trump did not care about Puerto Ricans because they are Hispanic. Thankfully, Puerto Rico Governor Ricardo Rossello backed up Trump and told the media what great assistance actually got from FEMA and other government agencies. Recently, during a press briefing, Trump was asked what grade he would give himself out of 10, and he said a 10. During the Oval Office presser, Trump asked Governor Rossello, "Did the United States, did our government, when we came in, did we do a great job? Military? First responders? FEMA? Did we do a great job?" The governor replied, "You responded immediately, sir." He added, "The response is there. Do we need to do a lot more? Of course we do. And I think everybody over here recognizes there's a lot of work to be done in Puerto Rico. But with your leadership, sir, and with everybody over here, we're committed to achieving that in the long run." Trump then turned his FEMA administrator Brock Long, asking simply, "Brock?" Brock replied that it's been a tremendous effort. Added Trump, "This is actually bigger than anything we've seen. And yet I think our response was better than anyone has ever seen." Do you think Trump deserves a 10 out of 10? I don't know. Watch Sanders stumble when Cruz asks him the difference between a Democrat and a socialist. Ted Cruz and Bernie Sanders had a very entertaining debate over tax reform. Bernie Sanders got very angry, screamed many times, and avoided every question. Meanwhile, Ted Cruz stayed calm, cool and logical. It was truly fun to watch Cruz wipe the floor with Sanders. As Sanders kept preaching that we increase taxes on all Americans, Ted Cruz eventually asked what the difference between a Democrat and a socialist really is on taxes. "Let me just ask, since this is a tax debate, what is the difference between a socialist and a Democrat on taxes?" asked Cruz. Sanders clearly wasn't expecting the question. "Well, I don't know the answer to that because I don't know," started Sanders. "I don't know either," said Cruz. "But here is what I think. As a democratic socialist, similar to the people in Denmark and Sweden and Norway and Finland, people who have by and large a much higher standard of living than we have, people who guarantee health care to all of their people as a right, where kids have free preschool education, where retirement benefits are much more generous than the United States," said Sanders. "I believe that in a civilized society, people, especially those on top, should be asked to pay their fair share so that every man, woman and child in our country can have a decent standard of living, said Sanders. A public school just made its students pretend that they are all Muslim. Liberals worship at the temple of diversity and multiculturalism, totally blind about how the beliefs of those other cultures might completely contradict their own. A recent example of this idiocy occurred in the city of Newton, Massachusetts, where teachers in Newton public schools made students pretend to all be Muslims in what they stated was the Islamic city of Jerusalem in Israel. One father complained to school administrators about how the school was making her daughter read anti-Israel, pro-Islam literature. The father learned things will get even worse next year, when high school students will be made to do an assignment called Cities, Connecting the Islamic Word. Says the description about the assignment, as our concluding project on the Islamic world, you will work in groups to simulate a historical Hajj, pilgrimage, to Mecca in class. Each of you will be part of a group of Muslim pilgrims from one of the following 8 Islamic cities or regions, around a rough time period. Commented Judicial Watch senior investigator Bill Marshall to Fox News, citizens of Newton have been waging a minor war with school officials for years now, trying to get them to use balanced curriculum in their teaching materials on the subject of Islam and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Some parents got in touch with Dr. Bill Saxton, who heads an organization that examines public school textbooks to make sure they are presenting facts and not just liberal ideas. He says he contacted the Newton School Board, but said that the superintendent was non-transparent about the textbooks the students were using. Said Saxton, parents and grandparents have absolutely no idea what their children and grandchildren are reading and hearing in school about history and geography. How many of them have read or looked at their textbooks, for example? Are you disgusted that a public school would subject its teenage students to this? Maxine has demanded Trump's impeachment during a funeral, but what she just did is much worse. Maxine Waters is one lady who really doesn't understand the appropriate times to discuss politics. Last month, Maxine Waters demanded President Trump's impeachment during a eulogy, and now she has gone even further. She has demanded his impeachment during an AIDS walk. We face unprecedented challenges today in our struggle against HIV and AIDS, and I want you to know those people in Congress on the opposite side of the aisle from me control every branch of our federal government. And we have, unfortunately, an unstable, erratic person in the White House, said Waters to the crowd. We don't know what this president will do, or say, or tweet from one day to the next. Don't forget, this is not a political event, but I'm heading toward impeachment, she said. At least she is aware that it's not a political event. In other words, Trump's goal is to sabotage our nation's healthcare system just because a major healthcare reform law has President Obama's name on it, said Waters to the people with AIDS. He obviously does not care how many people will suffer and die as a result of this vindictive, spiteful and cruel attempt to dismantle American health care, she said. Meghan McCain ribs Whoopi and sleazy Dem Representative Wilson for calling Trump a liar. Senator John McCain's daughter Meghan recently joined the cast of ABC's hard-left political talk show The View as their token conservative, replacing the departed Jedediah Bila. Some were worried that McCain would end up just agreeing with the liberals like her father has done, but she has actually proved to be a vocal foil for liberal blowhards Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar. On a recent episode, Whoopi, Joy and the rest tried to mock President Trump as usual, with Joy saying, "He hasn't made a single cash donation to any charity in the past 5 years. Right before the inauguration, I believe it was, he had to pay $25 million in damages for the fraud at Trump University. When he's forced to pay, he has to come up with the cash. If it's voluntary, the check is in the mail." Shot back McCain, "I'm having a really hard time with this. It's so deeply politicizing military service on both sides." She later pointed out how hypocritical it was for Democratic Congresswoman Frederica Wilson to try to accuse President Trump of not caring for soldiers. Said Megan, "Give me a moment." Yesterday Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, who was on yesterday, was saying that her voting record was amazing towards supporting the troops. It actually came out. Joy cut her off, saying pointlessly, "The Congresswoman." McCain continued, "Yes. That it wasn't as supportive. She opposed a bill that could have ensured families of soldiers slain in Afghanistan received death and burial benefits during a government shutdown. I don't like the politicizing on either side, anyway, of slain soldiers." Are you glad McCain set the liberal view hosts straight about the falsehoods they keep spreading?